Although it is recognized that the establishment of the village of Menomonee Falls was made by the sacrifices, hard work, and the sheer will of our immigrant forefathers, its longevity could not have been possible without the sons and daughters of those pioneers who stayed and continued to make this new place their home. These first-generation Americans were successful farmers and good businessmen, and by hard work, good management, and frugal effort continued to build up Menomonee Falls upon the foundation that was laid down by their immigrant pioneer parents. One such man was Paul J. Schneider. Paul was the first-generation born American of German parents. His father was Anton Schneider, born near Cologne in the town called Würmersdorf. His mother, Anna Mary Hilger, came from Olheim, Rhineland, Prussia. They both came to this country with their parents and siblings. 2 years after they landed in New York, they found themselves in Menomonee Falls. Anton got a patent for his land the same day he married Anna on July 7, 1847. Their farm was on what is now Good Hope Road, just west of what is now Pilgrim Road. Their son Paul J. was born August 27 in 1857 and was the 9th child in their family of 14 children. Paul was only 12 years old when his father Anton died of smallpox. 5 weeks later, his Aunt Margaret Wright, his father's sister, also succumbed to that dreaded disease that was sweeping through the village. Paul's 2 older sisters, Margaret and Agatha, were the only ones married and out of the house. His youngest sister, Anna Elizabeth, was barely 4. In August, 5 months after siblings Anton and Margaret died, Paul's mother, Anna, married her brother-in-law, Margaret's widower, Johann Adam Wright. Out of convenience, the surviving spouses combined their families. Their wedding was on Paul's 13th birthday. Not counting the parents, that brought the family up to 23 children. Seeing as how there wasn't enough room in the house, Paul slept in the barn, as I'm sure a few more of the boys did too. Oftentimes, there was just barely enough food to feed everyone, so he moved in with his sister Anna Maria and her husband Friedrich Schmitz and became their handyman and farm help. After about 10 years, Paul was getting restless and seeking good pay and adventure. He went out and became a lumberjack. After saving up enough money, Paul married Charlotte Hoffman on May 6, 1884. She also was the daughter of German immigrants. Her father, Philip Hoffman, was actually born on the Atlantic Ocean on his family's way to America. Her mother, Margaret Ullman, came from the same place Paul's mother did, Olheim, Rhineland, Prussia. Paul and Charlotte had 7 children: Annie, twins Peter and Paul, Philip, Peter J., Anna Catherine, and Servetus. Annie, the oldest, and Peter J. would be the only ones to survive childhood. In December of 1893, Paul bought the Cooperative Creamery Company in Fussville on Good Hope Road, and it prospered under his management. His daughter Annie would deliver the dairy products to their customers on her bicycle. When Charlotte's father moved to Fussville, the family made their home on Charlotte's father's farm, just west outside of town, on what is now Menomonee Avenue. The farmhouse, barn, and other buildings Philip Hoffman built were razed in 2014. All that is left of the homestead now is the silo. The farm was on the north side of Menomonee Avenue. There was a small community of Indians that lived directly south of that same road. Paul and his wife Charlotte were out working in the fields one day, and little Annie, just a child herself at the time, was left in the house to watch her little brothers. She noticed an Indian making his way across the road carrying a deer over his shoulders. She was too scared to run out to the field to get her ma and pa, so she just peeked out the window and watched him as he went into the smokehouse. When Annie's folks came back in from the field, she told them about the Indian. Paul went out to check the smokehouse. When he came back in, he was just fuming. The Indian didn't steal anything. He just traded his deer for a smoked ham that was hanging there. Paul was not happy. He wanted his ham back. He hated venison. Their daughter Annie and John Badke got married in 1906 and had taken up residence on the land across the street from her parents, south of Menomonee Avenue, just north of those Indians. In the spring of 1907, Paul leased out his creamery to a buttermaker named C. Intermural, who within months ran the creamery into the ground. By 1910, Paul had given it all up and took over Charlotte's father's farm on Menomonee Avenue permanently. Paul's son Peter had married Rose Lauer in September of 1916, and 5 months later, Paul J. and Charlotte, who had been diagnosed with tuberculosis, decided to get off the farm and move into town. Paul had 2 great parcels of farmland, houses on both, one on the north and one on the south side of Menomonee Avenue. Which of his children should get which property? He stuck a few straws in a potato, and whichever child pulled out the longest straw got the homestead. Pete got the homestead. Annie stayed on the farm she was already on, and Paul sold that 80 acres to her and her husband for $1 and a mortgage of $3,700. Paul and Charlotte moved into the village on the north side of Main Street. They bought a plot of land, cleared it, and built themselves a nice home to live out their lives on. Charlotte only lived in their new home for about 8 years, as she died in 1924. Heartbroken, Paul moved back out onto the farm with his son Peter and daughter-in-law Rose, where he stayed close to his children and grandchildren who lived there and across the street. The house he built on Main Street was taken over by one of Pete's daughters, Millie, and her family. Many evenings would be spent playing Schafskopf, or sheep's head, with his son Pete and any other Schneider and Badke children that would shine around to join the game. Occasionally during the game, Paul would sometimes take out his glass eye and roll it across the table. No one was sure of why he did this or how he even got a glass eye, but it sure sent the grandsons into an uproar of hilarity. Paul J. was sturdy but short of stature. He had his own special chair that had longer legs so that he would be the same height as others at the dinner table. He remained on the farm with his son's family until he died of pneumonia in 1933. Paul and his wife Charlotte are buried in the family plot at St. Mary's, along with their son and daughter, Annie and Pete, and their spouses, and Rose and Pete's son, Paul, and great-granddaughter Mary Ellen Kurtzwell. Eventually, the house on Main Street was bought by Larry Weiler, remodeled, and became Up Vets. This was a place that aided veterans looking for help. Paul didn't own a big business in the middle of town, nor did he hold any office with the village, but he held the hearts of the family he loved, and to his neighbors, he was a good friend. Born in this village, he lived out his life here, and he helped it grow. He raised his family here. Both his son and daughter stayed and lived, and in turn, raised their families here. Paul J. Schneider, as with many other first-generation American-born Menomonee Falls citizens, became the backbone of the village. They sustained it and gave it the hold it needed to grow so that more generations could stay and build on the dream of their ancestors of having a new home and freedom in a new land.